This Canadian move will cost America billions. Very interested to see what we got with this. I have heard a little bit about like Canada and America. Stuff is happening between the two, but I don't really know too much detail in it. But this does seem interesting how Canada is going to end up costing America a lot. Very curious to see what we got in this. Before we do, appreciate if you guys can hit that subscribe button. Let's check this out.
Canada has had enough, and it's about to strike back at America.
Okay.
Recently, relations between the two nations have been rocky, to say the least.
Oof.
The U.S. government has threatened their once friendly northern neighbors with everything from tariffs to outright annexation. But Canada has a little something up its sleeve, something the U.S. may not have seen coming.
Wait, as a Brit, right? And I know Brit has good relations with America and Canada, yeah? I thought Canada and America was literally like best friends, like siblings, you know what I'm saying? So like, I thought they, out of any other country, like America and Canada would be tight, like they'll be good.
This episode of the infographic show will dive into Canada. U.S. threatened Canada with a 25% tariff on all imports.
25%?
A move that had everyone holding their breath. After a few delays and political back and forth, the tariffs...
Wait, so that's 25% across all imports?
...finally went into effect on March 4th. But why did the U.S. administration impose tariffs on Canada in the first place?
Right.
Well, according to the U.S. president, he believes Canada has not been doing its part in stopping the flow of undocumented migrants and fentanyl into the U.S. from its northern border.
Okay.
However, in 2024, only 43 pounds of fentanyl were seized coming in from Canada.
Wait, 20 kilograms of fentanyl? Oh, okay. Well, isn't that their point of like it's all getting through the border? If not much is being seized, but a lot is coming in, I suppose it could come in from elsewhere. So maybe they're saying like not much is coming through the border anyway.
While in comparison, 21,000 pounds of fentanyl were seized at the border with Mexico. This move puzzled many experts.
Wow.
They struggled to understand why a border collie's weight in fentanyl crossing the border over the course of a year was being treated as such a major threat, especially given the drug's already massive presence within the U.S.
Right.
Even more puzzling, the trade deal the president keeps calling unfair, claiming the U.S. is subsidizing Canada by $200 billion a year, is actually the deal he signed himself during his first term back in October 2018.
Oh, really?
To soften the blow, the president issued an executive order allowing Canadian imports that comply with the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, to temporarily dodge the tariffs. But there is a catch. The reprieve only lasted until April 2nd. After that, the tariffs would come roaring back.
Right, okay, yeah. So they previously agreed for no tariffs, and now expiry date is done, and now tariffs they're here.
But that exemption doesn't cover most Canadian goods. In fact, 62% of other imports are still hit by the new tariffs.
Right.
There is some...
I'm very interested to see, like, I'm learning right now about, like, Canada, America, what's happening, what's going on with the tariffs and that. But I'm very, very, very curious to see where we go with this and how Canada's going to screw over America.
Relief for key sectors, though. Energy and potash, two huge segments of Canadian trade. Canada is actually the largest energy exporter to the U.S., and those sectors will face a reduced tariff of just 10%. Economists point out that the U.S. isn't subsidizing Canada, but rather it has a trade deficit with the country, mostly relating to energy exports. And that deficit isn't $200 billion, it's $63.3 billion, a number that not only disappears, but actually becomes a trade surplus for the U.S. if energy imports are discounted. However, in order to negotiate something better with their neighbors to the north, the U.S. went ahead with the 25% tariffs, which have hit three industries particularly hard.
Wait, so is that instead of charging them the amount of billions of dollars, they're just going to be like, okay, here's the 25% you're going to pay from now on for the imports?
Energy, lumber, and automobiles. Though the U.S. produces a lot of oil, in fact, most of any country in the world, many of its refineries need heavy crude oil to operate, 60% of which is imported from Canada, where it lies in abundance. Of course, the refineries could be restructured to not rely on crude oil, but that would take many years and cost billions and billions of dollars. And crude oil isn't the only Canadian energy import the U.S. relies on. The USA imports almost all of its natural gas and 85% of its electrical energy from Canada. The US imports...
Wait. Yeah, but that's the thing. So, like, America's going to tariff Canada with all of this, right? But then Canada is just going to be like, okay, look, well, you get 85% of our electric. We're going to tariff that. And then they're just making... it's just going to be a bad situation for both.
Energy from Canada. The U.S. imports almost half of its lumber from Canada, amounting to $28 billion worth in 2021. Since 94% of U.S. housing is built with lumber, that creates a big problem for potential homeowners in a country where housing is already becoming unaffordable for many. The U.S. construction industry has estimated that tariffs on Canadian...
Oh, wait, yeah, you thinking houses come unaffordable in America? For many, try the UK. The UK prices for houses is so much more than America and Canada. It's because we're so small, man. Like, our houses compared to Canada and America are a lot smaller and more pricier. Like, we're getting scammed.
Lumber will increase the cost of the average house by $9,000. Once again, even if the U.S. could theoretically produce all its required lumber domestically, something a recent analysis by research company Fast Markets says will take at least a decade, it would probably be impossible without tearing down a significant section of protected U.S. forests.
Oh, yeah, no, you don't want to do that. Listen, I've seen a lot of videos on it, like the America forests and the national parks and that. They're beautiful, man. Leave them untouched. They are actually stunning.
However, the industry group that's been hit the hardest and maybe the most vocal about suffering tariffs on Canada is U.S. automakers. The Canadian and U.S. auto industries have become so enmeshed, they essentially function as one big manufacturing chain. Automakers in Detroit, Michigan, and plants in neighboring Windsor, Ontario, send car parts and outsource manufacturing processes to one another all the time.
Makes sense.
U.S. automakers rely on Canada so heavily that 1.24 million vehicles are imported into the U.S. from the north, making Canada fourth among countries the U.S. imports vehicles from, behind Mexico, Japan, and South Korea. Former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called the tariffs a dumb thing to do, while the U.S. administration has insisted that they want to maintain friendly relations with Canada throughout the process. But it seems like the feeling is one-sided.
See, as an outsider, right, from the UK, far away from you guys, America and Canada, right? What I don't understand is you've got such an amazing relationship, right? Why even do anything to even, jeopardize that? Like, just leave things how they are, leave things how it's going. You both are doing each other a favor. You're both helping each other grow. There's to me, just leave it be. You know what I mean? Because like you're gonna keep charging each other more, right? And then in the end, you're just gonna do yourselves over. You know what I mean? I know America's putting tariffs on Canada, and then Canada's gonna do the same back. And
many Canadians have turned their backs on the U.S. without even a polite Canadian sorry to ease the tension, as they boycott American-made products and cancel U.S. travel plans.
Ooh.
A New York Times analysis showed that flights from Canada to the U.S. went down by 21% after Trump's tariffs took effect. But that is not the only way Canada plans to retaliate against threats from the U.S., as you'll soon see. Because the U.S. threats haven't just been economic, they've also been territorial. There have been calls about Canada becoming the 51st U.S. state multiple times. 77% of Canadians strongly or somewhat oppose joining the U.S., so it's clear.
Wait, but 33 Canadians are actually saying yes to join them. Oh, that'd be interesting. Like Canada just like becoming a part of the United States of America. 33% want to?
Clear that the whole 51st state idea is mostly an American dream. Current Prime Minister Mark Carney made it very clear that Canada is not for sale and won't be for sale ever. To which the U.S. replied, never say never. So it seems that no matter what Canada says, the threats from the U.S. government are not completely off the table. So what can Canada do?
That is such an American reply, man. Never say never, man. We'll get you one way or another, dude.
Well, they're trying out one plan right now. Because if you look at a map of the U.S., one very big, resource-rich part of the country is separated from the contiguous 48 states by Canada. And that place is the frozen, beautiful, massive state of Alaska. And Canada, or at least the Premier of British Columbia, David Eby, has threatened to severely hamper access to Alaska by imposing tolls on previously duty-free roads.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would hurt. That would hurt. Well, on the roads, you would have to go through Canada to Alaska. So they control it. So if they told them, oh, yeah, nah. Hey, listen, this is no good.
And that's a problem because British Columbia is the province that trucks need to get through to get to Alaska. Now, you might be thinking, why don't they simply fly over Canada to get to Alaska or take a ship?
Well,
while that does work for some cargo, it doesn't work for all. Supplies and other materials that need to get to Alaska immediately or some that are considered high value are almost always delivered by trucks.
Right,
According
okay,
to 49th
interesting.
Freight, when cargo needs to get from the contiguous U.S. to Alaska quickly, say in 7 to 10 days from as far as Dallas, Texas, and it requires over 40-foot equipment or can't be transferred mid-transit, trucking is the best option.
Right, gotcha.
Commercial trucks travel from Dawson Creek, the town in British Columbia, not the 90s teen soap, all the way up to Fairbanks, Alaska, a distance of about 1,400 miles on the Alaska
That is
Highway.
so big.
Thanks to previously friendly relations between Canada and Alaska, truck traffic generally travels through the province duty-free.
Okay.
Though the majority of cargo to Alaska is shipped, that still leaves 27% of imported and exported commodities to and from Alaska transported by
Oh, so most things are shipped. Okay, makes sense then. I thought it'd be too expensive to do it. It's just a lot cheaper with the trucks, but it's obviously not. But 27% is still trucks.
by truck, according to Royal Alaskan Movers. That is $596 million worth of goods exported from Alaska to Canada
Wow.
and $753 million of goods exported from Canada to Alaska.
Right.
It's enough to spook a lot of people in Alaska who rely on cargo shipments. The executive director
Well,
of the
yeah,
Alaska
for
Trucking
sure.
Association, Jamie Benson, said she is deeply concerned about the proposal to either block or impose duties on products going through Canada to Alaska. She further elaborated that such measures will significantly increase transportation costs, disrupt supply chains, and raise
See, that's the thing. The Moose is saying it best, man. Order's gonna happen on both sides. Prices are gonna go up in America with the stuff like the electric that's needed from Canada, and then prices are gonna go up in Canada from the things that's getting taxed. Like, bro, people are just gonna be paying out of pocket, man. The price is gonna go through the roof.
prices for essential goods that Alaskans rely on. British Columbia isn't the only Canadian province threatening the U.S. either. Yukon Premier Ranch Pillay, whose province butts up against Alaska, said that governmental liquor stores in his province will stop importing from American companies.
Oh, really?
In addition to that, U.S. companies that may have previously had access to Yukon governmental contracts will now be restricted. Pillay made it clear that his problem is not with the people of Alaska, but rather with the U.S. government's actions and threats.
Right,
To our
makes
friends
sense.
and family in Alaska, he states, our lives and economies are interconnected. Please know these measures are not directed at you, but we must do what we can to stand up for our country,
Right.
our sovereignty, and our way of life. In addition, Pillay might be thinking about getting in on the toll game himself. The premier said that he's heard from plenty of his constituents that they would be interested in imposing tolls on U.S. commercial traffic bound for Alaska. Pillay made it clear that instituting tolls would take some time, as the province would need to construct toll stations and staff them. However, he pointed out
See, I'm seeing the tolls happening here between countries, right? Do you guys in your own country have tolls within your own country? So like in you know, near you or something, you have a toll to get to a place quicker or whatnot. Do you guys have that? Because we have tolls in the UK, and that's just going from city to city. Honestly, I don't see the point in that. Like, yo, get rid of the toll. Get rid of the toll. Just let people drive there, man. Let people have two ways to go, and then now help with the traffic. You know what I'm saying? Get rid of the toll, bro.
out that it wouldn't be too difficult to process, as there are already way stations that trucks are required to pull into on the way to Alaska through Canada. So toll booths could easily be added to those areas. In addition, it's
Right.
not like the Yukon is crisscrossed by hundreds of highways. There is one major highway that goes through
Alcan.
to Alaska, nicknamed Alcan, Alaska, Canada.
Okay.
As for the Premier of British Columbia, EB, disrupting traffic to Alaska isn't the only plan that he has in mind. He's already directed his own provincial government to stop buying American products where alternatives exist. He's asked liquor stores in his area to stop selling alcohol from
Wait, are they gonna stop selling Coca-Cola? There's no way. I love Coca-Cola. Well, I know I'm not in Canada, but nah, there'll be too many people to love it. Yo, imagine it like in Canada, you have to start smuggling Coke. Well, not the Coke, not the drug Coke, the drinking Coke now. You know what I'm saying?
Republican-led states, which includes Alaska. And Alaska, it's conflicted. Some politicians like
Right.
Alaskan Senator Dan Sullivan have fired back with threats of their own. He warned that if Canada restricts commercial trucking from the contiguous U.S. to Alaska, he could push Congress or the president to pass legislation or issue an executive order targeting U.S. cruise ship stops in Canada. See,
What?
according to current regulations, cruise ships that go up to Alaska must make a mandatory stop in Canada.
Okay.
Something that local economies on the coast partly rely on for tourism and shipping income. Sullivan warned Canada that tolls on trucks represent a bit of a dangerous game, and the effect of exempting cruise ships from stops in Canada could cost the latter billions. As he states, "We're going to work hard on having our cruise ships bypass your ports, and that'll help our economy tremendously. It'll help our tourism industry tremendously, and it'll really hurt their tourism." On the other hand, the Alaskan House of Representatives took a more
Hey, this is just brutal. You know what I mean? Like I'm hearing it from both sides, right? And all I'm hearing is like you're just chipping away at each other. Do you know what I mean? You're just chipping away at each other. It's no good. I know this is all because America wants to tariff Canada, and then Canada fighting back saying that we don't agree with this, doing this and this, and then they're doing more, and then hey, listen, we gotta figure out. Just stop it.
diplomatic approach. In late March 2025, they passed House Joint Resolution 11, formally recognizing Canada's sovereignty and right
You
to
guys are best
self-determination,
friends, man.
a clear counter to the U.S. administration's rhetoric. The resolution also urged both federal governments to resolve the tariff dispute quickly. Specifically, they said the Alaska State Legislature opposes restrictive trade measures or tolls that would harm the unique relationship between Canada and Alaska or negatively affect our integrated economies. Both Republicans and Democrats in the House approved the measure. Even the Republican House Majority Leader, Chuck Kopp, said they ask both countries to work together amicably to resolve the tariff situation in a way that shows the respect for territorial integrity and sovereignty of both nations.
Makes sense.
In addition, all of these threats from the premiers of the provinces don't have the full backing of their constituents. In fact, many towns situated along the Alcan Highway rely not only on U.S. commercial trucking, but U.S. tourism along the road to survive.
I honestly think the big thing where Canada will cost America absolute so much is how America relies on 85% for the electric. That's a lot. That is an insane amount.
The road trip to Alaska is a major bucket list for many. Local business owners and mayors situated along the route fear that escalating tensions, tariffs, and back-and-forth threats will decrease their customer base. Towns like Fort Nelson, located in British Columbia, which are already facing economic depression, are worried about their future. Northern Rockies Regional Municipality Mayor Rob Fraser, whose district includes Fort Nelson, stated every single foreign dollar that comes in here is important to us. Every flat tire, every sandwich, every cup of coffee. Brian Stanley, the owner of Triple G Hideaway RV Park and Restaurant, echoed similar sentiments, saying American tourists are a huge part of keeping this place going. Local Super 8 motel owner Murray Abb said it's a significant percentage traveling to and from Alaska. Not only commercial truck drivers, but also tourists and even military members on their way to and from Alaskan military stations. It seems Premier Eby has heard some of these concerns. Bill 7, known as the Economic Stabilization Tariff Response Act, was introduced for passage in Canada, but Eby made it clear that the bill was simply proposed to give the province the option of applying tolls to U.S. commercial traffic. Others are concerned at how broad the language in Bill 7 is, and if it could possibly violate an international treaty. According to some critics, Bill 7 isn't too specific about whether it would enact tolls on just commercial traffic, meaning that private tourism could also be affected. This would create much bigger issues, as while only about 10,000 commercial trucks pass through BC on their way to Alaska every year.
Wait, yeah, how would they regulate that? Like, people going from BC to Alaska, like, they want to do it for the trucks, but, like, what about just private tourism? Would they only do it on the trucks, or would they just do it on every vehicle going through?
Many more tourists do. While there are no specific numbers for road trip visitors, a total of 97,200 annual visitors to Alaska arrived by highway or ferry in 2018 alone. Another important geopolitical issue may be the violation of a 1977 treaty governing the use of the Alcan Highway. The document very clearly says that any charges applied to U.S. travelers on the highway must also be applied to Canadian travelers. The treaty was created partly because the highway itself was built by the U.S. before being handed over to Canadian administration.
Oh, really? So
however,
they paid
Premier
for
Eby doesn't seem too concerned about this. As he has said, since the U.S. doesn't seem to respect treaties, why should British Columbia adhere to them? In other words, an escalation of the tariff war between the two countries seems like it would benefit almost no one.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, the tariffs on both countries. It won't benefit anyone. It really won't. You would just be... In fact, more people in both countries would just be paying more. So it's the people that's going to be affected massively.
And harm most of the people involved.
Yeah.
Now go check out tariff.
Interesting, though. Interesting, because I was hearing a little bit about what's going on between Canada and America. As someone from the UK, Hopefully just everything gets resolved and you guys don't have to be spending more money than you already need to. If Canada and America is a bit like the UK right now, prices are going through the roof, man. And it's crazy. Hopefully it gets resolved. But yeah, if you guys want to let me know what's going on in more detail in the comments, please let me know. If you guys got any video recommendations whatsoever, let me know as well in the comments. If you enjoyed, make sure you leave a thumbs up, subscribe for more content. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.